Hello guys, Matthew here and welcome back again to the TechTech YouTube channel. As you all probably witnessed by now, BitFenix is known for their unique looking chassis. I myself actually had a couple of their models back in the day, while this time I have a chance to check out one of their latest creations with edge-to-edge tempered glass side panels, the Aurora. To put some dazzle in it, I've chosen the white model, which actually goes great against those tinted black tempered glass side panels and these cool curved black mesh intake details on the front panel of the chassis. Very similar design theme and technical solution for the fans is also seen on the top panel, making the Aurora overall very unique looking. On that top side you'll also find a somewhat of beefed up front panel when it comes to features. Here we have power on and reset switch, audio in and out jacks, 2 USB 2.0 and 2 USB 3.0 ports, some LED indicators and a dedicated switch for the inner lighting, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. To my surprise, the right tempered glass side panel is completely covered with black wrap on its inner side. I personally like that since you don't have to look at the cables, which aren't that easy to manage in order to be a pretty sight, while you're still getting that tempered glass look and feel, plus you're getting a free mirror. The left tempered glass side panel is actually quite tinted. It dims down the visibility into the chassis for quite a big margin, even if you have a setup with lighting in it. Definitely have that in mind if you're aiming to build a rig with which you want to show off your components. Pulling the tempered glass off is done in your standard fashion. We have 4 thumb screws sitting in each corner and pressing the glass onto the frame. The glass sits on a soft foam padding going around the edge of the frame and rubber pegs, but it cannot be put just like that on its own when installing it back. You have to hold it while screwing down the thumb screws, so be prepared for some extensive fingerprint cleaning. Taking a look inside, you can see that there is plenty of room to spare. You can actually put up to 400mm long graphics card without getting in the way of other components, while it also supports up to 160mm tall air CPU coolers, which is a pretty much standard height. There's more than enough rubber grommets and other pass-through holes around the motherboard tray, on the top for the fans and EPS power connector, on the bottom for the power supply and front panel cables, while the main ones in the middle are all far enough from the right edge of the motherboard so you can easily fit even an eATX form factor one. Although you would think that this is a 5¼ inch drive bay, it's actually a 3½ inch one for your regular hard drives. You can remove it if you want to, but I've decided to keep it as it's not in the way and you can tuck away some access cables in or behind it. In the bottom right corner just below it, you can also see another drive bay for 3½ inch drives, for which you'll also get toolless guide rails for the drives, but since I knew I wasn't going to use it and since it's not a pretty sight just sitting there empty, I've pulled it out just by undoing 4 screws. Just above it you'll find one 2½ inch drive tray, which is held down by one thumb screw, so it's easy to install, while I also like its position as it nicely pops up. Just behind it, on the back side of the motherboard tray, you'll find another 2½ inch drive trays, but since I didn't use any of them, they've actually served a good purpose of holding and routing the cables. Going back inside, at the bottom left corner you'll find your spot for the power supply with rubber standoff padding and a dust filter underneath it, which is easily removable just by pulling it on the back. Since I'm already down there, here you can also see the chassis chromed feet, which have a decent height and padding. Just above that you can see that we have a pretty usual setup of 7 expansion slots next to a potentially useful pass-through rubber grommets for custom water cooling setups, IO shield and a spot for a 120mm fan, which comes pre-installed with the chassis. Speaking of them, fan and radiator installation options are also good, especially since BitFenix basically separated their installation spots from the inner part of the chassis by doing these raised frames both on the top and front, which makes for a better clearance for other components. You can easily access them just by pulling the panels off, and they are both capable of taking up to 280mm radiators. The only complaint I have here is in the fact that they don't have a dust filter per se, but rather a fixed mesh surface. Overall, I had a pretty good time building in it, couldn't find any major downside, especially when it comes to the back portion of the motherboard tray, where you can see that it has an ample room for cable management. You can easily fit almost 2 fingers between it and the side panel, while BitFenix says it has from 20 to 25 mm of space. There's also a lot of hook points for cable ties, and the large number of pass-through holes also makes their routing even easier. Although I didn't spend that much time cable managing this setup, I think it turned out to be pretty decent, and with a little bit of more effort it could be next to perfect. As you've probably noticed, I had some lighting going on inside of the chassis, and that's thanks to another BitFenix product which I had a chance to also try out. Since this case has their integrated RGB Chroma Controller, it supports their latest Alchemy 2.0 RGB LED magnetic strips. The product as such comes with a 30 or 60 cm long RGB LED magnetic strip combined with adhesive surface, although I don't know why they've put it since it has magnets. It basically gets in the way of possible repositioning later on, but okay, and a dedicated control and switch. Both also have magnets, so you can stick them anywhere on the chassis. That same controller, but stripped down from its housing, BitFenix implemented into the Aurora chassis, and it can be found on the back side of the motherboard tray. So to it you can connect your RGB LED strip and control it via the switch on the chassis itself. Like this, you can toggle between few different static colors, switch to a rainbow breeding effect, or switch it off completely. If you want to get even more control for it, you can actually connect the RGB LED strip directly to an RGB header on the motherboard, if it supports it of course, and take a full advantage of lighting customization using software utilities like Asus Aura Sync. That's it guys for this time from me. Thank you once again for watching. Feel free to toss me a thumbs up if you like what you saw, that really helps me a lot. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions about this product or if you want to leave your suggestions, and of course feel free to subscribe for content further down the line, or you can just check out some of my other videos from before. Until then, catch you later guys.